Today we are delighted to have an artist give a private lecture about two works of art that she has down in Gallery 3. Chellis Baird.
Well, thank you everybody for being here and celebrating my favorite color, red. And I'm excited to share a little bit about my practice and how I arrived at making these complex works. I consider myself a mixed media artist. I'm based in New York City, and my work lives between sculpture and painting. I see my work as a bewitching mixture of fantasy and reality. I begin each piece with a feeling or desire to express and use the language of a material as a way to convey the statement. I metaphorically and sometimes literally stitch these concepts together through a combination of different techniques. This is a photo of me in my Long Island City studio working on a series titled Epilogue. So this is a photo of me in my studio that was taken for Luxe Interior Design magazine. This is a photo my father took of my sister and I. So I grew up in Spartanburg, South Carolina, which is historically known as a textile town. And my father was a graphic designer, and my mother is still a fifth grade school teacher. And that environment of both left and right brain thinking was encouraged in my childhood. This is an image of a family heirloom. It's called a crazy quilt. I remember at a young age spending hours studying this quilt. I'm also wearing a thimble today that was worn by some of my ancestors while they were making this quilt. When my maternal grandmother passed away, she left it to me and my family because she knew how much I loved studying the beautiful stitch work and how much I appreciated the range of color and texture and the use of different materials to create a work of art. And this hung in my family's home as a work of art. That same grandmother that left me the quilt was a very active artist herself. Her name was Adeline Chellis, and she made beautiful woodcuts and was a very active oil painter. And she grew up during the Great Depression. So when I would spend many hours making and creating with her, she taught me the importance of resourcefulness and organization, and had just an incredible, deep integrity for creating that I really admired. And she lived to be 94. So the next theme I want to discuss a little bit is my appreciation and interest in fashion. This is a more recent photo of me in my studio. After Spartanburg, I went on to Rhode Island School of Design in Providence and received a BFA in textiles. After that, I moved to New York in 2005, and I worked as a fashion designer for Donna Karan and Tuleh and Ralph Lauren and Vince Camuto, to name a few. And at that time in my life, my art practice was a personal pursuit. This is another photo of me in my studio taken by my good friend Parker Calvert. I've been in the studio building for about 8 years, and one of the things that I love about it is the building itself used to be a garment factory for the hospitality industry. This is a piece that was featured in the Myrtle Beach Art Museum solo show that I had in 2021. And I pulled it up because I just wanted to share how my background in fashion influences my art today. I will sometimes wear a costume or accessory in the studio while creating to help harness the mood of a work. This is a photo of me working in a hoop skirt while draping fabric over a hula hoop for a piece called Spin. So after I draped fabric over the hula hoop, I then gessoed it, sanded it, and painted it and treated it like a painting. This is the finished work, Spin. This is a photo of me wearing a crown while hand sewing canvas swags of fabric to capture the royal sensation of lace from the 1400s. This titled Suspend. It's currently on view at Slag. This is another playful photo of me wearing multiple paintbrushes in my hair while creating what I like to think of as dimensional brushstrokes. This is the finished work from the previous photo titled Love Knot. I wanted to wear something to help harness the seductive quality of red, which reminded me of the refinement of silk. This is one of the works that I made out of silk wrapped around wood and wire. It's titled Lady Danger, which is the same name of the color lipstick I wear by MAC Cosmetics. So the next theme I want to talk a little bit about is dance. This is a photo of a dancer wearing a costume I painted in 2019 at the Louise Nevelson Chapel space in Manhattan. This is another photo my father took of me around age 5 taking ballet. My mom enrolled me in dance, probably partially as a way to keep me busy. I took to it right away. I've always loved music and movement, and I've continued my ballet practice through my adulthood. I still go at least once a week. Ballet helps me understand our body's relationship to gravity and helps me inform my abstract gestures in each composition. I believe with every muscle I exercise, I develop new facets of self to reflect and explore. It is this consistent form of self-discipline that also propels me to take leaps in my career and maintain a strong work ethic. I made for the same Louise Nevelson exhibition in the earlier slide. It was part of my solo show called Meditative Motions, and I wanted to pay homage to Louise Nevelson's chapel, which is the image on the right, and I quickly learned that Nevelson was a very active modern dancer and worked with Martha Graham for many years and talked about how dance informed her space as a sculptor, and that was something that really resonated with me, and I collaborated with the choreographer, Roberto Lara, worked with these 8 dancers to dance throughout the space during the reception. Continuing on the theme of dance, this piece is titled Duet. It was inspired by the formal nature of a duet and the tension between 2 dancers. That's titled Reclaim. I used this vermilion orange color that was inspired by a trip my husband and I took to Japan. I once had a boss in the fashion industry that loved orange and would start every collection with the color orange. And so I think in my mind, at that time, I thought, oh, well, orange is his color, not mine. Reclaim the color for myself. And that's how I came up with the title for this work. Why red? Well, as mentioned, my favorite color is red, as well as my signature lipstick hue. And I had a solo exhibition at the National Arts Club in 2021 that included a whole range of these works. This is another image of me in the studio working on a red work that I later titled The Garden. And one of the things that draws me to the color is its ability to simultaneously entice and intimidate, while also being a color associated with warmth and affection. The duality of the color continues to draw me to it. I think as a young child, I was always drawn to pink, different shades of pink, and then as I matured, the color kept getting darker and darker until it was red. This is an image of that solo exhibition at the National Arts Club. It's another install image of the red works. And now we've arrived at Smile, which is currently on view here at the museum. And I like to think of this work as a form of portraiture. I used fabric to create the draping horizontal swags, almost the same shape as a smile. And I love to laugh and smile, and I wear lavender eyeshadow. So all of the white that you see in this work is actually a very pale, pale lavender. And I thought that was another way to kind of cool down the hotness of the red and incorporate my own sense of color through the piece. This is another stage of Smile, just to share the layers of the process. And the image to the left is from a Martha Graham costume, where the dancers do this really intricate dance around a sheet. This is another photo of me working on Smile. It was one of the first works I made after giving birth to my son in 2020. His name's Sterling. And this is a photo my husband took of us at the National Arts Club in front of Smile and Betty Boop. I also look back on this exhibition and think of how red was a great way for me to reclaim myself as a woman after giving birth to my son. Now moving on to the piece Betty Boop, which is also here at the museum. As many of you know, Betty Boop is a fabulous cartoon, and I enjoyed watching it as a child. But my paternal grandmother, her name was Betty, and I called her Betty Boop. So this piece is really an homage to her. She had 6 children and was married to the mayor of Spartanburg, Bob Stoddard, and she never learned to drive. She walked everywhere in high heels, and she loved anything that was classically pretty. She ran the local garden club, hosted many parties, always felt that the best party was when you included all ages, from infant to 90s. This is another photo of me painting Betty Boop in the studio. Painters traditionally work on a wall or an easel, and sculptors tend to work in the middle of the room. And I really see my work as in between painting and sculpture. So if I'm not working on the wall, then sometimes this is another perspective of me painting Betty Boop on a table from above. I'm so honored to be included in this exhibition at the Nassau County Art Museum with some of my favorite artists, Rothko, Rauschenberg, and even Ozzie Clark, that fabulous red bias cut dress that's in the same exhibition room with me. I'm going to go back to this image of the crazy quilt for a minute. The buttonhole stitch, which you can see is featured around some of these images of fabric around the quilt, was the way that the Venetian artisans in the 1400s came up with lace. So I've become very fascinated with lace making and the history of lace, and I've been taking that gesture of the buttonhole stitch, these giant loops that are integrated together to form these bigger, bolder shapes in the abstract work. I always thought lace came from France, and then I learned it came from Italy, that King Louis, the Sun King, was buying so much lace from Italy that the country was going bankrupt. There was an actual war. Italy said anyone that leaves to work for King Louis and make his lace will be beheaded. And I just found that story so fascinating. So I've been going down my own sort of rabbit hole of literal holes and loops in this new body of work. These works will be included in a solo museum show in Paris next spring with RX Gallery. So I invite you to join my mailing list, to follow me on Instagram,